President, please be seated. The court is now back in session, and the floor is given to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to put the questions to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness. We were talking about former Law Knoll officials and soldiers. Do you remember a person who had been the deputy governor of either Phnom Penh or Don Pen district? I believe the name is Sor Pon, but I may be mispronouncing it. Do you remember this person, and do you know what happened to him after 17 April 1975?
Mr. Co-Prosecutor, I can recall that the person's name is Sor Pon. The Deputy Governor of Don Pen district in Lono regime. Sor Pon was implicated by an individual who ran away from Phnom Penh to Lang to find that the latter's parents, and the latter's name is Mardi, but I cannot recall his surname. I, on one occasion, took the confession of Mardi to Son Sen, my superior, and that document was in the hand of Son Sen and Pol Pot after the victory of Phnom Penh. Son Sen used the right-hand man of his, that is Nat, to arrest Sor Pon for interrogation, and the interrogation was conducted at the Prince residence, Princess Sarat Maniret residence. That was the special prison. And at the time, I started to know the special prison. I would like to tell you as well that at the time I was already the chief of S21, and as long as one was arrested, he or she was never released.
And did you see Sor Pon in detention at the special prison at the Monaret residence?
Không khơi, nát nóng không tới bằng hai. Tại ở miền Xuôi đấy mình phía cách không phong cả luôn, nơi phía cách bằng một hồ.
There's no translation into English. Can I just ask, because did you hear a translation? because I was just given a new, I don't think this solves it. But let's try, yeah. Did you have one?
No, I don't think anyone heard. We'll try again. Mr. Witness, let me read to you a statement you made in your testimony in this court on the 22nd of April, 2009. This is document E3524, and this was testimony at 15:25 in the afternoon. This is what you testified. Nat took me again to a special prison. The special prison is for those from Kampong Chenang. It was a villa of the Prince Sisawat Monoret. It was on Norodom Boulevard to the south of the National Bank. Nat took me there, and I saw Sor Pon there, sitting there writing confessions. Does that refresh your recollection? Did you see Sor Pon writing confessions at the special prison at the Monoret residence?
Thank you. Yes, I saw him. It is true what is stated in that document. But it's a bit strange to me when you quoted that that special prison was for people from Kampong Chenang. It had nothing to do with those from Kampong Chenang in terms of the special prison.
Let me ask you, how many people were there detained at that special prison, and who were those people other than Sor Pon?
I went to that location and saw Pon for a brief moment. I also saw Pon sitting on a bench reading the confession, and I do not recall who else I saw on that day.
You've talked about, during this period, being involved in interrogations of Law Nol officials or soldiers. What was the objective when you were interrogating a former Law Nol official or soldier? What was the objective of those interrogations?
I personally did not engage in the interrogation of any former Law Nol soldiers. If that is true, could you please read or quote just in summary the points that in relation to the interrogation of former soldiers from that document?
Well, during your testimony in your trial on the 28th of April 2009, you were shown a confession of Sor Pon, on which you identified some annotations that you had written, including, I'll quote you, "Our purpose is we want the actual location of the group, their names, their physical descriptions. How many of them go abroad, and how many of them are still in the country, and who are they?" These are annotations that you identified in your own handwriting, and this is testimony on the 28th of April 2009 at 15:23 to 1527 in the afternoon, document E3 5794. Does that refresh your recollection, Mr. Witness? Do you remember providing advice in relation to interrogation of certain people? Do you remember doing that? And was your objective to find information on where other Law Knoll officials were?
That was the purpose of interrogation at the time.
Mr. President, with your leave, I'd like to provide a document to the witness at this time. It is document E3/3652, E3/3652, with your leave.
President, please repeat the document number and identity again.
Yes, it is document E3/3652, and it is a confession or report relating to a prisoner named Lang Pring.
President, you may do so.
And with your leave, Mr. President, may we display this document on the screen?
President, yes, the request is granted, and in principle, your request to provide the witness with document and also to show the documents is granted as long as there is no objection from parties.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can show this on the screen, the cover page of this document. Mr. Witness, do you recognize this document? And in particular, do you recognize who signed the document in the bottom right-hand corner of the cover page?
The person who placed the signature at the bottom on the right is Nad, and another name of Nad is Saim. Saim, Nad used the name Saim in the battlefield at Nea Leung. In fact, the name Saim was the names of a dead soldier, and after that soldier died, Nad used the name Saim to be his name.
And across from Nat's signature on the bottom, there's some markings. There's an indication, and if you look in this document, you will see that there are names in the document that have been placed in a box, and other names that have been underlined in a certain color. And on the very bottom, there's an indication that the box meant a person had been arrested, and one color indicated request to be arrested, another color indicated must be tracked. Do you remember this system? Was this something that Nat used while he was in charge of the security operations?
I was going around and collecting the documents, and I was not yet in operation at that center. And if I am giving the response right now, it appears that I am concluding on the matter. And as for Nat, he was a little bit liberal in arresting people.
If you could look, and we don't want you to speculate here, so I'm going to ask very precise questions. If you could look at the annotation, the handwriting on the cover page that appears in the upper left, and to help you, I've given you a copy in which we've magnified that, and if we could also show it magnified on the screen. Do you recognize the handwriting that appears in the upper left corner of this document?
I saw it now, Mr. Co-Prosecutor.
Is that on the document?
It was my superior's handwriting, the handwriting that I used to see, Kyo or Prada Sun Sen, my superior.
The reason I'm asking you about this document is you mentioned that you had been involved in at some point in interrogations of some workers from a paper factory. This detainee was from the K5 paper mill, and there are 14 people in Knott's report who are identified and proposed for arrest. My question is, were you involved in interrogations subsequent to this document of people who were later arrested from this paper factory?
Yes, I did ask about that. Particularly, I did the interrogation. I conducted the interrogation on those former factory workers from K5 to my recollection, or perhaps K10.
And do you remember whether these were people who had been identified as former Lon Nol soldiers?
To my recollection, I conducted interrogation on one person only from paper mill. This person was involved in the burning down the factory so that the factory could no longer be in operation. That the factory was located at Chaong Re.
And do you, so the person that you interrogated was not someone who was a former Lon Nol soldier? Is that correct?
Correct.
Let's now focus on the initial period when S-21 began operations. Can you tell us who were the initial prisoners brought to S-21 when it began operations in I think, October 1975? And where did those people come from?
Mostly they were arrested from Sector 25. I have informed you of Sector 25, which included Angkor Thom and Kin Swai, that is the older base of NAT. And also that the sector included Lương Đài.
And the initial prisoners at S21, were these people who had been transferred from other prisons, such as the Takmo prison, or were these all people who had just been newly arrested, or was it both?
To my recollection, the prisoners at Takmau were smashed separately from others. Nat was removed from S21 in March. He still was entitled to enter S21 to finish up his work at that location and to assist Ho. And later on, concerning the people who were arrested, they were interrogated at a corner, at a place, at a corner. That location was on a road which I could not recall the number of that road. First, they were interrogated at that location behind the new S21 before they were put into the prison. So again, to summarize, after the removal of Nat from S21, the party still allowed Nat to come and finish up his work at that center. He was just there to finish up his work for a shorter period of time only.
I want to focus on the period while Nat was still the chairman and you were the deputy, and in particular in October 1975 when S21 first began operations. And let me read to you something from your testimony in your trial on the 22nd of April 2009, document E3/524 at 15:28 in the afternoon. You're talking about October 1975, and you state the following. Nat ordered me to stay in a house in Street 413 or 431. The house belonged to General Ku Kim Eng. I stayed there, and then I was asked to bring the prisoners from Takmo to that house for the cadres to interrogate them. End of quote. Does that refresh your memory? Do you remember bringing prisoners from Takmau to the houses in Phnom Penh where you first began operations?
That is true. During the initial operation of that center, I was assigned by Nat to work and stay at Chia Kim Eng's residence. and prisoners were detained to the south of that residence. Young men from Am Liang were tasked with the interrogation of the prisoners at the initial stage.
And these initial prisoners at S21, how many of them were people who were former Law Nol soldiers or officials? Can you give us an estimate? Were they the majority, or what percentage of the prisoners were former Law Nol people?
To my recollection, most of those prisoners were former paper mill workers. And they were from the electricity factory at Changre or perhaps at Satoj.
Let's look at another document, Mr. Witness, and this is one of the initial or earliest S21 lists that we have. May I provide E3/1539 to the witness? E3/1539.
President, your request is granted.
The document I've handed to you, Mr. Witness, is entitled Names of Prisoners Who Died at Office S21 Corps, S21C, and it is a list of over 159 people, mostly former Law Nol soldiers of various ranks, who were executed primarily between the 22nd of March 1976 and the 30th of March 1976. My first question to you, what was 21 Corps, 21C? What is meant by the reference to S21C?
I do not know about S21 Go or C, frankly speaking. When I was overall in charge, there was office at the field, but when you are speaking of C, D, or B, I am confused now. After the party removed Nad was still entitled to come and finish off his work at S21. And then I continued the operation of S21. So I had no experience in dealing with the former soldiers.
Well, let me ask you a related question. The prison at Takmau, you've already confirmed that you transferred some prisoners there to S21. How long did S21 continue to use the prison at Takmau? You've given some testimony about how at some point it was transferred to the Ministry of Social Affairs, Do you remember how long the Takmo prison was used by S-21? And was it referred to as S-21C during that time period?
I am not able to respond to your question in relation to S21 A, B, C, or D. The document that I have seen is about office at the Takmau. That office was office 43 or perhaps 44.
I'm going to come back to this list, but I want you to look at another document now to see whether it helps you identify what S21C is. And the document I'd like you to look at is E3/8493. May I provide E3/8493 to the witness?
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Kanguk, this is a document that is dated 11 April 1976, and it contains totals, a list of the total prisoners at S-21. And the reason I'm handing you this list now is there is a total of prisoners indicated for Office 21A. If you look at the first page of the document, it shows a total of 262 prisoners located at Office 21A, at 396 prisoners located at Office 21C, for a total of 658 prisoners. My question to you is, does this help you remember during this time period what was 21A and what was 21C, if you remember?
To my recollection, that the numbering was made by Ho. And as I mentioned at length regarding what happened at I-71, some events were not known to me. And this is the case that this is outside of my knowledge. And as I said, even after the reassignment by the party, NAT still has the authority to finish off his remaining works at S-21. So it is possible that the numbering A, B, C, or D were made by her and him, but for me, I had no clue at all about this numbering system, because when I became chief of the center, I never referred to this subsection A, B, or C at all.
Can we tell from this document, was this before you relocated to the school site at Tuol Sleng? The date of this document, 11 April 1976, where we have 262 prisoners at S21A, 396 at 21C. Can you tell whether this was before or after you had relocated to Tuol Sleng?
I began working there, rather working first at Chia Kum A's residence. Later on, Nat sent me to work at the National Police Commissariat. Then I returned to the vicinity around Chia Kum A's residence. However, I found it rather difficult to work there. Then I asked for permission to use that school as a new site for the detention of prisoners.
And my question was, do you think it was before or after 11 April 1976 that you relocated to the school prison?
It is difficult for me to say, as the date could be before or after that, and that is still a contentious issue. Ho and Nat could predated or backdated the date on the document.
All right, we'll come back to this daily list later. If you could go back to E3 1539, the list of 159 prisoners who were smashed at the end of March. I have a few names I want to ask you on that list. So if you could go back to the previous document that I gave to you. And I want to ask you about a prisoner who appears, who is number 37 on this list. Do you remember a lieutenant colonel named, and pardon my pronunciation, Ban Uch Nil Peck, a lieutenant colonel? Do you remember this person, and what do you remember about him?
Ban
Ut and Nurpich. Nat took me to see them. And Nat presented them to me as they were their uncles and they were from Israel. And they were given titles Ban Ut Nurpich by King Sihanouk. And they were, he was a lieutenant colonel. I did not understand the intention of Nat, as he did not make it clear to me. However, I could say that Nat wanted me to hide that person as he prepared a room with a bed. But that place was not near the present Tuol Sleng premises. That is a former Ponyayat school. But it was near the vicinity of the National Police Precinct. He prepared a room with a bed there. And to my recollection, the person was not interrogated, and I presumed Nat did not dare to keep him alive, and for that reason he was later on smashed. I believed I made mention of this event in my previous testimony, and I can say that yes, I saw that person.
And so the record is clear that was Ban Uch, was he a relative of Nat?
Yes, that is correct. Ban Uch Nil Pich. So Ban Uch was Nat's uncle, and the latter part was a title given to him by Sihanouk.
This document, E3-1539, indicates that he was smashed, executed on the 26th of March, 1976. But why was it that Nat was still chairman at this time? Why was it that Nat had to have his own uncle killed?
That Uch was a famous person known to every leader at the time, and for that reason, Nat did not dare to keep him alive.
But why was he famous?
Previously, he was a former leader of Isara movement who bore arms to engage in a resistance. Later on, he defected to Sihanouk, and Sihanouk gave him the title, and that is the same as Chun, and he was given a title by Sihanouk as Dab Chun. And the same thing is for Ban Tuch, as he was given a title Nil Pich. So the full name and title was Ban Tuch Nil Pich.
The next group of people on this list I'd like to ask you about. There are at least 12 people who are not identified as soldiers or officials with positions, but are identified simply as relatives or family members of Long Beret, the former prime minister. They are numbers, if you're looking at the list, numbers 44 through 49, and if we could show that on the screen. 135 to 136, 149, and 153 to 155. Each of these people is identified as a relative or family member of Long Beret. Why were relatives, family members of Long Beret arrested and killed at S-21?
First, allow me to say that, yes, I saw these names on the list at S21, but I never saw any of them starting or having surname Long. Second, Long Beret was a famous person. For that reason, he had to be smashed along with his relatives if they could not manage to escape.
And if you could look at the very last entry on this list, number 159, number 159 on this execution list are the 4 children of Tach Chia. Now, I know you've testified about this before, but can you remind the court who Tach Chia was? And did you know his wife and his children?
Tachir was a former professor before I graduated, and I could say he could be the first batch of professors who graduated. As for his wife, she was also a former professor. Later on, he was promoted to be a state secretary, while Kai Sang Kim was a minister. And during the demonstration by students, there was a person named Sa Son who led the demonstration to kill the two people that I mentioned. Sa Son was not a Khmer Rouge, and I did not know about his political tendency. And on 17 April 1975, CPK gained victory, and Long Borate's wife and children were arrested. President interrupts witness. We are speaking about Tachir and not Long Borate.
So, at the time that Tachir was killed in, I believe, 1974, was he an official who worked for the Minister of Education at that time?
Yes, that is correct.
And his 4 children who are listed here as being executed, do you remember how old his children were?
I did not know. When I entered S21, I did not go and visit Tachir's wife, but before that I saw her walking with Tachir when they went to show a film at the pedagogical school.
Was Tachir's wife also detained at S21? And can you tell the court what happened to her there?
There was a conflict between Nat and me in relation to Tachir's wife. One day, young man requested Tachir's wife to teach the medic on the surgery process, but I said no. And days after that, Nat and I were called by the superior for meeting. And I did not know the reason, but Nat made a report that Tachir's wife was sent to teach the medic how to operate, how to conduct surgery. And I said, no, that was not the case. But Nat said, no, it happened. And then our superior actually blamed us that we should not do that. We should not do it to the wife of a famous person. And later on, she died. And as for the 4 children, I only heard about them. They were pretty young. And that's all I knew about the family members of Tachir and his wife.
I want to read to you, to get some clarification, Mr. Witness, I want to read to you from your testimony in your trial on the 16th of June 2009, E3 5800, at 16:06 in the afternoon, or strike that, at 15:59 to 16:06 in the afternoon, you gave the following testimony. Quote, "The matter of conducting surgery on the live prisoner was done from the early stage. When I was the deputy, I did not dare to tackle the problem. When I was aware that the wife of Tach Chia was used for the training, I asked and urged Nat, who was close to me, I asked Nat to replace Tach Chia's wife with another person. But when we went to see the superior, he boasted about taking Tach Chia's wife away for that purpose. Then, at that time, I understood the intention that it was the instruction from the superiors to use live prisoners for the training of surgery." End of quote. Does that refresh your memory, Mr. Witness? Did you learn from this meeting with the superior, in fact, that he had approved the surgery on Tach Chia's wife?
As I have mentioned, the medical made a request for the surgery. I refused the request and I said I use somebody else. I did not beg my subordinates to do that, but I gave an order to them. However, when we were before the superior, and the thing went on as I've just said, and the superior blamed why Tach's wife was used for that purpose. There could be somebody else that could be used. And later on, there was no request for taking a person for that training purpose. So, in conclusion, I can say that if the superior authorized for the use of another person's wife, then that would be the principle. But for me, I objected to Nat that she should not be used for that purpose. And actually, we contested that point before our superior, and the superior blamed Nat for that. And that is based on my recollection, and I still remember that well.
A couple of follow-ups. Just so we're clear, who is the superior that you and Nat met with on this question?
I refer to Son Sen or Brother Q.
And do I understand correctly that Son Sen was okay with doing live medical surgeries on people? He just blamed you for using a well-known person for the medical experiment. Do I understand correctly?
Witness, please wait for the microphone to be operational. Witness. We could draw that conclusion that's what happened in principle.
Just so we're clear, what Son Sen criticized you for was picking a famous person's wife for this. He wasn't criticizing Nat or you for the surgery being done. Is that correct?
Yes.
And The four children of this woman and Tachchia, why were they killed? Why did S-21 kill the four children of this couple?
And the real situation after 17 April 1975, when the parents were taken away and killed, the children would be taken away and killed as well.
Do you remember how old Tachchia's wife was when this took place, when she was killed by a medical experiment?
I did not review her biography, and in fact I did not even know her name. And from what I saw her when I was still studying at the pedagogical school, she could be a few years older than me. And of course, Tachchia was also older than me.
On this list of prisoners who were killed in late March 1976, if you look at numbers 51 through 53, 51 through 53, and this is again document E3 1539, and we could show this on the screen. These three individuals, a student, a lieutenant, and a medical student, they are described in the far right column as the Catholic religion. What was the significance of these prisoners having the Catholic religion? Why was that something noted in this S-21 execution list? Have the document, it's the list, it's a prisoner list that has document number E31539 on it. You should have it in your collection there.
Mr. President, I object to this question because we have established that the document was not made by the witness. He also doesn't recognize Office S21C. Presumably it's something that Nat did. So now asking the witness to speculate as to what that annotation Catholic religion means is not appropriate.
Mr. President, the witness was the deputy chairman of S21 at this time. It is certainly fair to ask the deputy chairman of S21, a person who was deputy chairman, why people were identified as being from the Catholic religion in an S21 record.
The objection by the defense counsel for Nuji is overruled. The question is permissible, and witness, please respond to that question. And court officer, could you assist the witness by showing the relevant part of the document before him so that he can review it and respond to the question?
And just to remind it, we're looking at numbers 51 to 53 on this list. The list is E3 1539. numbers 51 through 53. Do you know why these prisoners were identified as being of the Catholic religion? What was the significance of that?
In fact, this is a separate matter that I was not aware of. However, I was aware of other events. One day, Son Sen called me at night to meet him. And I think I have testified before regarding this event. When we met him, he said that at sector 32 or 33, they found CIAs. And once one person became a CIA agent, that person would remain a CIA agent. And he asked why we could not find any CIA at S21 and why in other sectors they could find CIA agents. And that they even did not resort to beating them up. And that we were sent back to our work and to work harder to find CIA agents. Then I saw the constitution of the Democratic Cambodia, which provided religious freedom to Cambodian people and to oppose reactionary religions. And I was questioned by the co-investigating judges as what reactionary religions were. I could not respond to that, but then I had to do a research as how many people who were of Catholics or other religious grounds. And I met Pastor Poncho on the 26th of July 2013, and I asked him that question. And he said that certain of those people were killed. He mentioned one person, Joseph Ma Salah, who was killed. And the person's name was used for a community religious gathering. So, Catholic religion was regarded as a reactionary religion. To my understanding, there was one Protestant who survived, and the name was Kang Gich Huong, who lived near the TB control center or hospital. The rest died, including Tep Im, who was actually Khmer. So I believe the two religions were regarded as reactionary religions. President, thank you. The Chamber will adjourn the proceedings now and resume it tomorrow. That is Wednesday, 8th June 2016, commencing from 9 o'clock in the morning. Tomorrow, the Chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Kang Gich. The information is for the parties and the public. Mr. Witness, the hearing of your testimony as a witness is not yet concluded. You are invited to return again tomorrow. Security personnel are instructed to take the two accused as well as Kang Gail to the detention facility and return the two accused as well as the witness to attend the proceedings tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. And as for Kang Gail, please return him to the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him to be in this courtroom at 9 o'clock. The court is now in recess.